Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Convos with Pops. This week, I have one of my favorite hosts of a podcast that I listen to every Monday morning. And no, it's not Eric Bischoff, and it's not Conrad Thompson. It is Mr. Michael Berry Sr., and I'm so happy to have you on. It's been, I've been trying to get a hold of you for a while, and it just seems like our paths can never cross. So let everybody know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so no, I'm definitely happy to be on the show. So I've been doing the podcast thing. What has it been? Maybe a little bit over a year now. Started off was doing a podcast over there with RJ. I think the world of RJ. He's still continuing on with Ringside Rant. And right now we're doing a podcast with Damian Purvis called Running with History. And it's going pretty well. Actually, just got done recording with him our latest episode. So, a little bit about myself. I'm just common man. Have a 9 to 5 job, as it were. Lovely wife, 2 lovely children. So, and grew up a big fan of wrestling. I was more so a WWF kid than a WCW kid. If that's a thing, I guess. And, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I mean, I'm still a fan to this day. I'm really digging what AEW's doing. I'm really digging what Conrad Thompson is doing and his My Rate of podcasts. Saw that he now has one with Arn Anderson, so that's going to be a wonderful deal. But yeah, that's kind of what I have going on.
Well, let's get into it. What is your earliest memory of wrestling?
So my earliest memory of wrestling, that's a very good question. I would say my earliest memory of wrestling, I should say, was I distinctly remember WrestleMania 3, right? I think WrestleMania 3 was for a lot of kids. So I'm 39 years old now, right? So back then, WrestleMania 3 was, I believe, 87, if I'm not mistaken. So I was about 7 years old. So my first memory was, of course, Hogan being able to body slam the Giant, a tremendous moment out there in Pontiac Silverdome out in Detroit, and that's what I mean. That's my first memory. My first memory that I can recall was kind of that, and then kind of going back and watching some of the older stuff. I can remember, going to the video store and seeing a lot of wrestling tapes there, and kind of starting to ingrain myself. A buddy of mine had all WrestleMania 2 recorded, WrestleMania 1, so I went back, watched those. But really got hooked at WrestleMania 3, I would say.
Yeah, for me, I always tell everybody I'm 38 now, so I'm a 34-year-old wrestling fan, or 34-year wrestling fan, because
Gotcha.
I watched it with my uncle. But what my earliest memory is wearing out WrestleMania 4, that double tape. That, I mean, my grandpa worked at a gas station. They had videos, and I must have watched that 3 times a week. But what keeps you a wrestling fan, or what's kept you a wrestling fan all these years, I should ask?
Well, so as you get older, it kind of goes in waves. I will admit, wrestling has its down periods, right? So I'm trying to remember exactly the time frame, but so you had Ric Flair. I remember Ric Flair. That's another thing that sticks out in my mind, going to WWF, and that was a big moment. Obviously, there's a lot of big moments in between that. WrestleMania 4 was another WrestleMania that I liked because I love tournaments. I love those, just that type of stuff anyway. I've always been super into March Madness, but it goes in waves, right? So, with wrestling, I know there was that down period, I would say, 95, 96, kind of, sort of, where I kind of backed off it a little bit as a kid. Other things are going on. You become a teenager. You get interested in some other stuff. Obviously, then NWO happened and Attitude Era happened. But to this day, I'll tell you what I look for is a uniqueness, and I'll be the first one. And I really don't want to crap on WWE because that's not what I'm coming on here to do. And I still watch WWE from time to time. But for me, I'm more so right now a bigger fan of AEW. I'm a bigger fan of the Elite. I like, so that's what drew me. The same way I say that now is that's the stuff that drew me to the NWO and drew me to WCW at the time. I like the alternative product. ECW, that's another one. I like alternative product. I don't like the mainstream stuff. Growing up, I wasn't a big Hogan kid. That wasn't my deal. Um, like Hogan, good enough, whatever. But I knew the prayers and vitamins stuff was kind of for better, for lack of a better term. I want to be careful how I say this, but it's kind of a load of crap, right? And some people believe in that, and that's fine. I'm not crapping on that, but for me, I was a weird kid. I'm a weird adult, but I was more into heels. I was more into like your Roddy Pipers. I was into your Macho Man Randy Savage. I was into more the heelish talk type characters, but the characters that could talk. That's what always drove me. It was the ring psychology, which I didn't get to really understand all that well until I became an adult. But it was more so the guys that could talk, the guys that could sell you on stuff, the guys that could sell you on a match, could sell you they were the baddest thing walking the planet. So for me, that's what it was. I love the entertainment value, but I also did love and appreciate the ring work. Your Mr. Perfects and all that. So to this day, I mean, you think about present day era. I mean, CM Punk's no longer doing it, but I was a fan of his. That's what kind of drew me back to WWF, so to speak. I would say today's current product and who I would like would be like it's weird to say, but like your SCUs, your guys that can talk, that can entertain. Marty Scurll, I'm a big fan of Marty Scurll. I love his work. And not to say it's not that I don't like WWE. There's people I like there. You have your AJ Styles, guys like that I know it was highly entertaining in his TNA days. So, for me, I love the entertainment value, but I'm a little bit more of I need to be entertained, so to speak. So I'm looking for more of a uniqueness. I don't want to see the same old thing kind of run in cycles and be the same thing, if that makes any sense at all.
It makes perfect sense, and I hope I'm saying it to the right person, but I want to say that you said something shortly after All Out on Running with History that I fully appreciated, and I actually kind of went on my own little rant on my show this week. I believe you said that you were at All Out,
right?
And you were in Chicago. Obviously, we're all in Chicago. I was back at the hotel watching, but there was not one CM Punk chant.
There wasn't,
and that's because I believe it was you that said they were entertaining the crowd enough that they didn't get bored enough to do that.
Right. So, and the reason I felt compelled to say that, right, is because for one, it's the truth, and for two, I mean, I went to, when was this? Last year, Money in the Bank was in Chicago, right? So that show, coupled with, I went to a Raw earlier this year, and I'm sorry, my memory isn't the greatest these days, but I went to when Raw was in Chicago, and it dragged. It absolutely dragged. And again, I hesitate to crap all over the WWE because they're the global, worldwide leader. They make plenty of money, but I think there's a place to make money, but then there's a place where you got to entertain your fans, right? And I think they're finally getting that. It helps that Eric's back there. It helps that Paul's kind of running stuff there. Only so much because Vince McMahon has the final say so. But yeah, I mean, it was the craziest thing to me because I even joked. I was in the crowd and I even joked at one point, and I said, "Man, when are the CM Punk chants coming?" And the buddy I was there with was kind of like, "Man, dude, shut up! Like, who cares?" Like, and he's right. Like, yeah, like it was just for me. I was waiting because those things amuse me. Then they start to piss me off because it's like, look, CM Punk is great. I'm as big of a CM Punk fan as you'll find. But there comes a point, and for me, that point came about, I don't know, he left in 2014, right? I would say about towards the middle of 2015, about a year off of him leaving. I said, you know what? He ain't coming back. He's not. I mean, not full time. It's a shame. I feel like his prime years, unfortunately, went down the drain. But I get why the man left as a human being. And if you were at Starcast, or
Mhm.
even if you weren't, if you were fortunate enough to have the good conscious decision to, uh, you know, buy the show on Fight, or I know they ran a pay-per-view, you heard it from CM Punk himself. The man was burnt out. Uh, but it's funny because WWE wonders why people chant for CM Punk. They chant for CM Punk because CM Punk was the last thing that a lot of people remember as being a certain level of entertainment.
Mhm.
People don't want to be fed. Look, WWE, when it's at its most popular, at least recent history, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was constantly fighting with the boss. You had The Rock, who was his own dude. Who
Mhm.
you had Attitude Era, and that's even Shawn Michaels. People want uniqueness. They don't want to tune in to a 3-hour show and be told what to like. And that's unfortunately been a big problem with WWE. So yeah, off my rant, and I'm glad that you appreciate that. But I meant, yeah, every word that I said, uh, you know, all out blew me away, to be honest with you. And not everybody takes it like that. And you get people on Twitter that, oh, I'm a WWE fan, or oh, I'm an AEW fan, or oh, I'm an NWA fan. Look, okay, that's fine. If you're this, that, or the other, tremendous, happy for you. But you know what? Don't crap on people who are fans of all of it, or most of it, or different ones. You don't have to choose. Like, this isn't Coke versus Pepsi, and even Coke versus Pepsi, you don't have to choose. Hell, I've drank both in my lifetime, right?
Right.
But so that's kind of where I was coming from there.
See, that's, I mean, to that point, that's what irritates me about the I guess, quote unquote, internet wrestling community is, are you a wrestling community or are you a company community? Because I'm a professional wrestling fan. I appreciate professional wrestling of all forms. Um, I'm learning the Japanese style. Co-host Queen has got me into New Japan, but I mean, I love independent wrestling. I still love the WWE for what it is. It irritates me beyond all belief, but I'm a professional wrestling fan, and it irritates me when people are trying to start a war for no reason. And I appreciate where you're coming from with that, and I guess that's my problem with the internet wrestling community is because it's almost like it's an internet company community. I'm a professional wrestling fan. I, I love it all. uh, NWA, I'm super excited for. I'm excited for AEW. I'm excited for the changes that I see in WWE, at least on the Raw side. I'm not really excited for SmackDown. The last couple of weeks has just been sour grapes, and this week actually kind of gave me stomach cramps watching it. So, um, you know, I don't think that we have to fight with each other. And it seems like every day I turn on Twitter, it's like, oh, you like AEW, you suck. It's like, no, dude, you just if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But don't tell me that I can't.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's the crazy thing to me is that, at the end of the day, there's plenty of wrestling out there for, people that like different styles, and it's crazy to me. But, unfortunately, when you get to Twitter and Facebook and all those social media sites, you get the people that are looking to pick fights. You get the people that are just wanting, they're miserable, so they want to make you miserable type of deal. And that's a hard lesson I've learned on social media, to be quite honest with you. And it's something that you learn from and you move forward. So at the end of the day, you can be an AEW fan, a WWE fan, a Ring of Honor fan, an Impact fan, an MLW fan. You don't have to choose one.
Right, and if you want to, that's fine too.
Exactly. That's the other point. If you like, say, hey, I'm a New Japan guy. I know people that are. They're specifically New Japan. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm an NWA guy. Okay, cool. You know, um, but if you're that, you know, don't make it a point to go on and say, oh, well, I'm an NWA fan and you're a Impact fan. You screw you. Like what? Like why?
Right.
So it's, yeah, you may not like the product. And that's the thing. It's like you got to be careful because you can't have an opinion on Twitter. Yeah, no, have an opinion, be respectful, and have a cordial conversation. And that's something I try to, model my usage of social media around is trying to be respectful of people until they become a habitual line stepper, and then, we go from there.
Well, you mentioned that you were at All Out, so
Yep.
it was with the pre-show or whatever they want to call their first hour.
Right.
That was a 5+ hour show.
Yeah. It was a long show, and that's something I actually touched base on the episode we recorded tonight with Damien, and it's hard. It's going to be hard for AEW or whatever company. What is WrestleMania at now? 8 hours, 9 hours?
It's too damn long.
It's too damn long, and I know there's talks about breaking it up into 2 days, which you already kind of do, right? You have NXT. I think time management needs to be something that needs to be looked at, for all these companies, because it's hard to engage, for 5.5, 6 hours. And that's regular pay-per-views now. That's not your SummerSlam, your Survivor Series, your Big Four in WWE, or
Right.
it's even the smaller companies that are running their pay-per-views extraordinarily long. If you're going to run them that long, you better be entertaining. All Out was entertaining, but there would be concern on my end is, once AEW gets to Baltimore and they do Full Gear, are they going to run the same time length? But I will say this, AEW has a good idea of what the fans want to see.
It was a super long show, but it didn't really feel, I guess,
No.
Watching it at the viewing party, it didn't feel like it was 5 hours.
Right.
But at the same time, I kind of appreciated what I thought they were modeling after, like the NXT model, which is like 2.5, 3 hours, which was their previous. So I don't know if this was just like an all out, we have one last chance to show everybody what we're about before TV.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if it was, great. My thing, I think, with WrestleMania is it's WrestleMania. You don't have to have everybody on the show.
Right.
If they wrote stories like they used to, and they had the endings or even partially the beginnings of new stories,
Mm-hmm.
they could do that in 3 hours with their main people and make stars for the next 6 to 8 months if they do it right. You can't tell me that they can't do it because they used to do it all the time.
Right. Yeah, and I part of me is curious to see, and it's wishful thinking on my part, being from the area, but I wonder if All Out is going to be AEW's WrestleMania. They're talking about coming back and doing it so that was part of. So I don't know that this was broadcast on the feed, right? But Tony Khan came out at the end of the show and announced that pretty much he'd like to do All Out every year in Chicago, Labor Day weekend, and also that they're going to be coming back to Chicago Thanksgiving Eve, I believe it is, for TV taping, and he's looking to do that every year as well, and in Chicago. So it's a pretty aggressive statement, but not one I'm opposed to for obvious reasons.
Right.
I dig their product, and Tony Khan definitely is. I've heard people say it before, and I would tend to agree. Tony Khan is essentially the polar opposite of Vince McMahon. Meaning he's a fan first. Vince McMahon's a businessman, and that's not a knock on Vince McMahon. He's a very successful businessman. But Tony Khan is more a fan and someone who, he told the crowd thank you. It was pretty. I was taken aback. It was a good deal.
Yeah, I think Cody had alluded to them possibly coming back next year for All Out during his undesirable to undeniable with
Tony Schiavone.
Yeah. And I'm not opposed to that too, simply because why not let Sears Center be their Madison Square Garden? Why not? The Midwest. I'm a Midwest guy too. sometimes I feel like we're forgotten about.
We are.
Chicago. I mean, Chicago has had a few WrestleManias, and they get some pay-per-views. You drive a couple hours north, and it's like Milwaukee hasn't had anything big in years.
Right.
I think Cyber Tuesday or whatever crap that was in Milwaukee. I don't remember. It
I
was
remember that.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Like we barely get a Raw or SmackDown anymore. We barely get a house show in Green Bay. I mean, when I was coming up, we had shows all the time in Green Bay. I mean, Brown County Arena was always packed with WWF, and now it's. I mean, I will say we get cool moments in Green Bay. We got our money refunded by Trump or whatever. I think Green Bay is what started the "Let's Go AJ, Cena Sucks" chant. So we have cool moments, but why can't we have big shows here? And
yeah.
And AEW is talking about going to underserved markets, and I really hope that they view, Green Bay, Minneapolis as underserved markets, because we really are.
I thought I heard a rumor, and obviously it turned out not to be true. But there was, from what I had heard, there was discussions or talks about or consideration, I should say, given to running the first AEW TV show. As we now know, that's not going to be the case, but running the first show at Mall of America up in Minnesota. So, if anything, you find a way to run a show up there. I would agree with you. Green Bay, Milwaukee is a tremendous market, and it is a shame. It's an absolute shame. It's a shame. I think. So you think about WrestleManias, right? You think about what they are now, and granted, they're making money hand over fist. But how long is that going to last? Because I'm going to tell you, they could keep going back to the Tampa area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to move, and let's even take WrestleMania out of the equation. Your SummerSlams, your Survivor Series, your Big Four, your Royal Rumbles. You need to move those around. And that's, I feel like, was part of what made WWF so successful when they had to kind of come back when they were left for dead by WCW. And I think they've forgotten that sight. And I think that's part of the problem. It's so formulaic now. It's so formulaic in what they do. And, people, granted, casual fans, whatever, they could maybe care less. But your company's only going to be as strong as your core fan base. And those are your enthusiasts, your fanatics.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad that we're, the enthusiasts are the underserved market in WWE because they're so worried about mainstream fans.
Yep.
Mainstream fans, what you get from them? You get, oh, hey, I can get 2 pay-per-views for free, and then I can cancel the network.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
But you got guys, I'm sure that you're probably one of them, that have been since day one with this network, through every freaking problem, through every shitty feed for every freaking pay-per-view, but we stick with them. And it's
for the most part. I've went about a few months without them, to be honest with you, because I was pissed.
Right.
But of course you can never fully get away from it, right?
Right.
So
well,
they got all the older content, and they got a lot of cool stuff on there. And when you're sick and tired of watching, which that's a good thing now. Now you can go watch AEW, you can go watch Impact. You have other things, but for a while there, because Impact wasn't at its greatest moment.
Right.
The only thing you could really do is go back and watch Attitude Era Raws or Attitude Era Nitros and kind of relive that, because honestly, the product has been in the crapper for a couple of years now, with regards to WWE. It's clean, rinse, repeat, move to the next Raw, move to the next SmackDown, and finally it looks like they're getting away from that. And see, that's the thing with Vince McMahon. You always need competition. Think about, I don't know if you'll recall this, but I'm pretty sure you will, but you think about WWF and back in 94, 95 and how that was. And then all of a sudden, 96, NWO, Nitro, and all of a sudden WWF had to step their game up.
Yeah.
And that's when you got the speech about we no longer have good guys versus bad guys and this, that, or the other. Well, it's still the same stuff, right? It still rings true to today. But what changed? You bought out all your competition. So I mean,
Right.
TNA was hot there for a minute. Now TNA back in 2004, 2005,
Oh,
man,
hell yeah.
that was 2006 even tremendous. But it didn't last, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. TNA pre-Hogan.
Oh yeah,
And, I mean,
absolutely. Their house shows, let me tell you, their house shows were the greatest thing I've ever been to, for the most part. The greatest thing I ever been to. I mean, just the fan inclusivity, that I don't even know if that's a word. Hopefully it is, and I didn't butcher it. But including the fans. So the first year they came to, I live in Northwest Indiana, close enough to Chicago that I can spit and hit the city. But, so I live in Northwest Indiana, and so I live close to Hammond, Indiana. And they ran a show. The one year was on my birthday, and Rob Van Dam was there. I got his autograph. He wished me happy birthday. The very next year's my daughter's birthday. They happened to run the show on. And let me tell you the experience that she got. She's a big Velvet Sky fan. Velvet Sky came out of the ring, gave her a big old hug, told her happy birthday. We got to go backstage, meet the wrestlers. And that's when they had like AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Bobby Roode. It was a tremendous experience.
I had the opportunity to meet Velvet Sky at Starcast 1.
Yeah.
Her and Angelina were just lovely women.
They are.
They're very lovely, and actually probably sat and chatted with them for on and off for 20 minutes while I was waiting in line to get into the Milliken belt room because they were right there. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
So you saw me at Starcast 1 then.
I probably did, yeah.
I was stuck in. Well, I don't want to say stuck. That's a bad way to say it. That's a very terrible way to say it. I wasn't stuck there. I enjoyed being there, but that's the room that I was mainly trying to handle and run and deal with. Now you were at Starcast 3, right?
Yes, I was at 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So give me, if you don't mind, if I can ask you a question.
Oh, definitely.
But give me your perspective of Starcast 1 versus Starcast 3, understanding that they were built differently, right, in the way that they were built. But as far as flow and fan experience, what do you think was the difference between Starcast 1 and Starcast 3?
Well, Starcast 1, looking back at it, I think it was like I think Conrad really thought this is a one-off.
Yep.
And he's like, fuck it, I'm going to overbook the shit out of this.
Yep.
And I'm going to make it, the best damn thing that I can make it. And you could tell there was problems, but I didn't have, personally, in Starcast 1 to Starcast 3, I liked Autograph Row down that hallway.
Yeah.
Even though it was hotter than fuck. I mean, I'm not going to lie, that it was hotter than, I liked it, but I gotta say, I didn't mind it in a room. It didn't feel as rushed, I guess, in the rooms. The only real problem that I saw that I anticipated was CM Punk.
Yeah.
I mean, I missed out on Foley's so that I could be in line to make sure that I got in for the Punk stage show.
Yep.
Which I didn't mind, because I've seen Foley live, and I also ordered Starcast on Fight, so I knew I'd see it at some point. But then the line for the meet and greet was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That I personally, I bought a meet and greet. I had my co-host Queen was in line, her husband. I just asked her husband if he would just take my ticket and get the autograph for me. Wow. After waiting in line for 2.5 hours for the stage show, I wasn't waiting in line for 4 hours to get a picture with the guy. I can only do lines for so much, for so long. But I felt bad for those guys because they were cutting it short to get to All Out. I mean, buses were ready to leave and people were still in line. And so, but what did everyone think was going to happen? He hasn't been around in 5 years, There's a reason why I think that they scheduled 2 autograph signings, because they knew it was going to be ridiculous. So I think all in all, I think that 3 from a spectator's perspective, I think ran smoother than 1. But that's because I mean, literally, I think, and I don't know Conrad, and but I could tell looking back that Starcast 1 was a one-off in his mind, and he just booked the hell out of it. I mean, everybody who was anybody who was or will be somebody was there.
Right, right. And I think you use a very good word there, overbooked, because I even think Conrad would admit that it was overbooked. I think he has, right? Um, as someone who worked both events, Starcast 1 was, to put it nicely, a logistical nightmare. We didn't know. Here's the thing: things were getting changed up. Like I was in the belt room. One day Gertner's in the belt room, Joe Gertner, I should say. The next day he's not. People are coming in there, and people are coming for this, that, and the other, and we had no idea. Now I will say this: Allison and Mark of the information desk at Starcast, both at 1 and recently at 3, and I know they were at 2, tremendous people.
Yeah, 100%.
couldn't meet nicer people. And God bless them, because they helped get us through 1 and 3 as well. For 3, the only thing I will say is, for me, it was a different experience. I was more dedicated out towards the pavilion area, which had its pluses and minuses. But the pavilion area wasn't, that was kind of I don't want to say it wasn't B-list, because that's the wrong way to put it, but it was more the backup type deal, where you had, different variety of shows out there, very good shows, very highly entertaining shows. But yeah, it was, you could tell the difference, and you could tell that it was way more organized. Now, as you said, Saturday was bananas when it came to CM Punk. But again, what do you expect? I mean, like you said, the man was gone for 5 years. This is a guy a lot of people, were fans of. It's not, and hopefully WWF finally, or WWE, I'm sorry, gets it through their thick skulls that, yeah, CM Punk was a big deal. And they should have done more with him, but too late for any of that, unfortunately.
I mean, the one thing that he did say that he'd take a phone call if they called from anybody.
Yeah, and I think and that's the right attitude to have, right? Because at the end of the day, CM Punk, from my understanding, has some business dealings with Fox. As we know, SmackDown's going to Fox. CM Punk would be a fool. I know they were talking about doing some kind of variety show or some commentary show. CM Punk would be a fool not to get in on that, and he knows it. At the end of the day, it's business is business. So, I just wish the egos up at it's not Titan Tower anymore, but the egos up at WWE weren't so big that they couldn't be bothered with having a conversation with CM Punk.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a sad situation. Unfortunately, it's a sad situation. I don't want to be a bummer here, but
no, because like even if he doesn't come back and wrestle, just think of what he could add to the Performance Center or commentary. I mean, he could literally teach promo class.
Yeah.
He could teach the psychology of what to do and where to move in the ring. I mean, he had that, and he learned from Harley too. So I mean, there's you gotta appreciate what he can offer, and just, I guess, like you said, just kind of swallow your pride and be like, do we want to make our product better before somebody else snatches him to make their product better? I guess is where I'm getting to.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, look, let's not sit here and pretend like CM Punk was that great of an MMA fighter that UFC signed him up because of that. He wasn't. He was untrained. What he was he was an entertainer. He could put butts in seats, so to speak. He was a draw. UFC got him for 2 draws, and trust me, laughing all the way to the bank on that one. They could care less that Mickey Gall, whipped his ass. Who cares? Because at the end of the day, it's all about selling that ticket. I know I damn sure, made sure that I saw, when CM Punk fought, and I pretty much knew what unfortunately, it was going to be. I was cautiously optimistic that Punk would, have a better showing than he did. And that's not knocking the guy. Look, at the end of the day, to go into the octagon, that takes a special breed, man. And a lot of guys get psyched out before they even get in the octagon. So, you know, kudos to Punk. He went in there, he fulfilled a dream, and then he went and did it again. And anybody that tries to knock that is a fool, in my opinion.
Yeah, because everybody that's out there trying to knock it won't step into that ring and get punched in the face.
And even if they did, one, they're not going to draw anybody, so nobody cares,
Right.
and they'll never get booked. But two, if they did, decide to go in there, it'd probably die in the octagon, and that's not being funny, that's not being malicious. That's just the truth. You go in there unprepared, and you're gonna get seriously hurt. So it's a different breed.
Kind of circling back to Starcast between 1 and 3.
Yep.
You can just look at Starcast 1 and then take a step back and look at 3 and say, what a hell of a year wrestling has been.
Mm-hmm.
Lines have been drawn. There's quote unquote wars have been started. I mean, the Starcast 1, as well as All In, the first show that they did, you had ROH, you had TNA, you had, I think, Impact had people. WoW, I don't know if WoW did last year, but I know they did this year. So, and now this year they stood alone. All Elite stood alone, and you could tell. You could tell in the I guess the people that were there doing meet and greets. That, there was a select group that you could select from, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, you had the signing room, which was the belt room, which was pretty much the AEW room. Look, at the end of the day, Starcast is Conrad's baby. That's Conrad's thing. It's not AEW's thing. People think it is. Now, does AEW run hand in hand with Starcast and Conrad? Yeah, you're damn right. And AEW had their own dedicated section. Yeah, because AEW, whether people like it or not, they're the number 2 wrestling company right now. There's no waiting for it to happen. It's a fact. You could say, oh, they haven't signed all their talent yet. They're not even on TV. It doesn't matter. Look, Tony Khan is a billionaire. He's worth 2, maybe almost 3 times what Vince McMahon. And I'm not saying that to sit here and compare the two. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, there is absolute financial backing for AEW to the point that AEW can make missteps and be okay. And that's something that you can't say for Impact. You can't say it for MLW. As much as I love MLW and Court Bauer, you can't say it for any of these other companies, NWA. You can't say it for them. They can't make the financial investment that an AEW can make. AEW is the clear-cut number 2. They're going to be running TV. Congratulations, by the way, to Impact. From what I see, they were able to strike up a deal with Access TV. So congratulations to them on that. And I think they're headed in good places, and they could possibly be your number 3. But AEW is the number 2. And that's not me speaking an opinion. That's me speaking to a fact. And, yes, AEW was absolutely – and, yeah, I'm sure there were, people that weren't invited to come back to StarCast for whatever reason, and people can run with it where they were or however they'd like. But, at the end of the day, AEW had a pronounced hell, I helped carry in Cody Rhodes' throne from Double or Nothing that he smashed, the whole symbol of Triple H. I helped carry that thing in. I still got marks from my arm from a certain piece I had to hold a certain way. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time in wrestling, but wrestling has absolutely grown, and it will continue to grow. And the best thing I could tell to anybody is, because I'll tell you what, I went to an independent show not too long before Starcast 3 and All Out, I believe it was local Backbreaker Wrestling out here, and I was blown away at what they were able to do. And I hadn't been entertained that much in a long while. And support your local independents if you can, because they're the lifeblood of wrestling.
I want to go back to this Tony Khan situation. I heard an interview with Tony Khan where he took this business plan to his dad.
Right.
Um, to help out financially. So, I mean, is Tony Khan really the billionaire behind AEW, or is his dad, or are they a partner in this? And if they're partners and it starts to fail, at what point do you stop the bleeding of your own personal bank account? And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but everyone seems to think that that they just have this disposable income that they're going to throw at it. But I'm already telling you it's not going to need it because they're going to make money. But I don't. I don't know how to say it right. They're not like a money tree, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, as with any business, right? So you look at Impact, you look at the missteps that unfortunately Impact had in Dixie Carter, and unfortunately what that led to. Yeah, I mean, when you're running a business, it has to make fiscal sense. What I guess I was meaning to say, and maybe I didn't say it correctly, is that AEW can make certain financial mistakes, not significant financial mistakes, but they can take a misstep here or there and not be crushed like an Impact would, like, another company might be. But at the end of the day, it's gonna have to make money. It's the same thing. I mean, you look at Tony Khan and they have, the soccer team that they own abroad out in Europe, and, they have other things, kind of irons in the fire. They own the Jacksonville Jaguars, which their attendance hasn't been the best. But, it's at that moment that you kind of could look to tie this stuff in. How many events have they held down in Jacksonville? And there's opportunity there. I think the moves you see AEW making, they're not just going up and scooping every single person now up in wrestling. There's still a strategic plan to figure out what makes sense for the company. Now, a lot of people sit there and say, oh, well, yeah, you got Kenny Omega as an EVP, you got the Young Bucks are EVPs, you got Cody Rhodes, he's an EVP. Oh, they're just going to make themselves win all the matches. That hasn't been the case. And I think for good reason. I don't think Omega's won a match yet, right, on a big show that they've had for AEW.
He's won one.
He's won one, right? So what is he, 1 and 2? So, and that's not a bad thing. Even though people may look at that as a bad thing, it's not. Because at the end of the day, you're only going to be as strong as the people you can get over. Because if you're the big fish in the pond and you're sitting there winning every match, well, who's developed? Who's next to help elevate your game?
Okay. I don't want to interrupt you here. We actually had this conversation with a friend at StarCast. His name is Steve Tatai, and he brought up something interesting. Because Omega's new to the States and he's new to this, okay, their core fans know who Kenny Omega is.
Right.
But AEW is in a position where they need to expand their fan base.
Right.
And Kenny Omega is new to America. He said he would have had him go undefeated. I'm kind of on the fence with that the more I think about it. My issue with the booking of Kenny Omega is if we look at it, he's the best bout machine. He's the whatever, Vincent Van Gogh of wrestling, whatever they want to say about him. And that all might be true, but American fans who don't know him, all they know about him is that he's from Japan. And since he's been in America, he's beaten a Japanese wrestler and lost to 2 former WWE guys.
Yeah.
So,
and I get that. I guess my vantage point is, and I get what you're saying, and you're not wrong, but at the end of the day, you have to be careful with stuff, right? Because we don't live in the kayfabe era anymore. everybody knows that he's an EVP, and everybody kind of knows what that means. Not everybody, but most hardcore fans like both me and you, I would say we're hardcore fans. We understand, and so I get it. Yeah, are they going to be able to just have Kenny Omega keep losing all these matches? No, that's going to hurt. I get what you're saying, and you make a fair point. I mean, he's losing to basically guys who were in the WWE, and that's a fair point. But I think in order to have that comeback trail, that comeback story, that resurrection, you have to have it. Almost goes back to like the whole booking of Roman Reigns, right? Not to really touch that subject too much here, but you think about how that all went wrong, and it's because you sit there and you made Roman Reigns this unbeatable guy that never lost, and people didn't respect that. He didn't overcome anything.
Right.
And for Omega, I mean, I would anticipate we won't be too far down the road before Kenny Omega becomes the AEW World Champion. But he's going to have to overcome some stuff. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The unique stuff there with Omega is that the original plan was for him to face, I almost called him Dean Ambrose. Lord help me.
Moxley.
John Moxley. So that all kind of got thrown into flux, and who knows what the plan was there. Yeah, maybe it was Moxley was going to go over, but, we don't know. So, at the end of the day, time will tell. And that's the thing, as wrestling fans, it's the one thing that I would preach to, and I preach it to myself because I'm the same way, right? We're so used to the here and the now and this, and this, and everything's super fast that we got to allow sometimes for the slow burn and the longer build to happen.
Right, and I agree with you on that too. And I believe with AEW coming to TV and what their business plan is, what their model is, and what they're telling everybody their company is going to be, I think a lot of us are going to have to retrain ourselves to go back to, maybe our, late teens, early 20s and how wrestling was, where things built and there was story and, it wasn't just Monday to Monday,
Right. And that's the whole thing. It's that instant reaction, right, is unfortunately to me has been a little bit the downfall of wrestling.
Yeah, and social media has really fucked it up for us all too.
Yep, I agree.
I mean,
I 125% agree, to the point where I've actually taken hiatuses away from it.
Right.
Social media.
Like I had Twitter apparently for 9 years, I guess, and I've only used it over the last year since I started doing podcasting, and it's, for me, it's more, I've met so many really cool people on Twitter. I've talked to you and Damien, and I met Jay-Z at Starcast 1, and I talked to him on Twitter, and I just had a chance to finally get a sit down with Dave Hancock and have him on the show. So, there's a lot of cool people that I've been meeting that are part of the wrestling community that I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I need to clarify that, because people are going to hear me say that and say, "Oh, you want to be friends with Conrad's friends?" No, I mean, he's got super cool friends, I'm not going to lie, but I want to be part of the positive part of wrestling community where, for instance, Jay-Z was on the show. I'm a Nick Aldis fan. He thinks he's soft. We had a nice conversation about it. I don't hate him, but right. There's that other side of wrestling Twitter that if I say I like Nick Aldis, they all fucking hate me.
Right.
So that's the part of the wrestling community I want to be in. The people that are positive, that give a shit that other people have opinions that are different from them, that are willing to listen and
yeah.
Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, just conversation, because I think in the long scheme of things, if it's not for us, there is no wrestling. Yep. Which is why I appreciate what AEW is doing right now. They're saying they're going to listen to the fans, and that's great. I hope it lasts.
Right.
Time will tell,
Yeah. No, and absolutely, and I would agree. And I mean, yeah, I'm friends with Dave. I like Dave. Dave's a great guy. Jay-Z, Justin, he's a great guy too. And, but at the end of the day, we should, as people, be able to have a civil conversation. And hell, I may talk to you and say, I think, The Rock was the greatest wrestler during the Attitude Era. And you may say, no, Austin was, or Hollywood Hogan was. Look, let's have that discussion. At the end of the day, we're probably going to still believe what we believe. But I tend to want to hear other people's sides so I can kind of see their perspective. Because I see wrestling through my eyes, or, from my standpoint. But I also like to see it from other people's. That's why I listen to a lot of podcasts, such as yours, such as there's a Myrated podcast. It's another industry that's been booming pretty well. And I don't want to hear someone repeat everything what I believe. I want to hear other people's perspectives and opinions. And a big part of it, to be honest with you, is respect. And what people don't understand about respect isn't given, it's earned. Meaning, I could sit here and say, I want you to respect me. That doesn't mean you're going to respect me. But if I show you respect, you're more prone to show me in kind that same respect. People these days just don't get it. And unfortunately, it's because you have a lot of, I really don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use this word. You have a lot of idiots that get on there, and by God, if you don't agree with them that sliced bread is the greatest thing known to man, you're a piece of shit. What?
Right.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
like I don't like bread. I prefer, I don't want the carbs, Well, what's wrong? It's like, and people go back and forth about the stupidest stuff, and it's for the dogs, if you ask me.
And I think, like, I mean, I always tell everybody I'm really old. I'm only 38, but in my mind, I am super old for this world because
me too.
I open doors for women and elderly people. I
do too.
I say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I even to gentlemen that are younger than me, I'll say, how are you, sir? Because I don't know you, but I'm going to show you right from the get that I respect you before, and now you got to kind of keep it. You gotta keep that respect. You gotta earn it now. I'm gonna give you a little bit, but that's how I was raised. I mean, I was raised as you work hard, you respect your elders, you respect women, you respect other people's opinions, even if you don't like them. You have honest discussion, because that's how progress is made, and that's how I've had my mind changed a lot of times where I thought that I was right about something, and someone gave me their perspective, and I thought about it, I'm like, well, shit, I was wrong. I get it. Like, now I see it a different way. Another reason what hooked me on Running with History with you and Damien. The first show, Owen and Brett. Never in that rivalry did I ever look at Owen as the babyface.
Right.
Until I listened to the show, and I'm like, well, shit, I can totally see it.
Yeah.
But if we don't allow ourselves to have an open mind, I don't know. It's just the world we live in, I guess. It's different.
It is, and it's also people's perspectives, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, look, let me first say this. When I was a kid, okay, watching that originally, my original perspective on it, there's no way in hell I would even tell you that Owen was a baby face. But as I got older, as I understood more, as I understood life more, and even going back and watching it, you think about it and some of the stuff. But that's what's good about me and Damien. Damien's upbringing is different from my upbringing. Look, I grew up, I had a single mom, and I had to start working when I'm 12 years old, and that's not taken away from Damien. He worked from a young age as well, but his upbringing and my upbringing is two different things, right? But we respect one another, just like I respect you, and I respect anybody that I go on to show with. Because look, at the end of the day, it's how you learn. You said it perfectly. Is being willing to look at someone else's perspective and understand where they're coming from and show them that respect, and then actually thinking about it and saying, well, you know what? Wow, that person had, And unfortunately for me, I grew up in we moved a lot,
Mm,
so I grew up in different areas, different communities, right? So for me, I mean, I've grown up in gated communities. I've grown up in the ghetto. Crazy as
hmm
it is to believe, and some of you may not believe me, but I'm telling you, I've grown up where literally at night I would go to sleep and I would hear gunshots ring off, and that's how I would sometimes go to sleep. It's screwed up, right? But
Yeah.
that's why I'm more empathetic to people because people will look at. So, for example, I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of it, and I'm me being a Bulls fan, I'd probably be more invested in it. But I watched the 30 for 30 on Dennis Rodman. It just came out on ESPN. 30 for 30 is their documentary series, and you look at his
Mm,
life. And I knew a lot of the stuff that they were talking about. I remember because I actually had to give a speech on Dennis Rodman when I was growing up because he was one of my favorite players. And he was unique, right? But
hmm
his upbringing, you look at his upbringing and you look at his situation and the fact that just everything about it's unique. And you understand that, look, Dennis Rodman's upbringing is different than mine or yours in that so he's a certain type of way. Now, do I agree with every little thing Rodman did? No, he was, there was things he did that, it was what it was. But at the end of the day, when we're growing up, that's what you have to be empathetic to people and understand that they didn't grow up how you grew up. So if somebody doesn't think the way you think, you shouldn't take it so personally as to say, well, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. You should try and understand why do they feel that way, and you may learn more about yourself in the process. And that's how I kind of try to look at it. And wrestling's no different. Wrestling is life essentially. You look at it, and it's you got different things for different people, and you have to appreciate it's an art form.
yeah. One of my biggest gripes that I had, and I'm surprised that they still let me have podcasts. I went on many rants over this. Is I've always been under the impression that professional wrestling community has always been inclusive
Yep.
to everybody. It's always been that safe place. Okay, minus Twitter, but it's always been that safe place where everybody could go.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter where you came from, like you said, I mean, I for the first few years of my life, I grew up in government housing too, and then I moved to the country with an alcoholic stepdad and worked on a farm when I was 8 years old, and then I
Been
went
there.
back to the city. So like I get it, but like for me, wrestling has always been there for me.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people that have had worse upbringings than me that are wrestling fans, they say the same thing. And like this is why I wanted to do this show. I wanted to talk to people, and I want to know what wrestling means to them. But at the same time, I feel like I need to say, like, I don't need AEW to tell me that they're going to be the most all-inclusive company, because to me it's always been that way.
Right.
Now they're going in places with it that I think WWE has always been scared to go to, which is awesome. I fucking love it. Okay,
Yeah.
but um, I feel like if the outside of the wrestling community would look inside the wrestling community and say, what are they doing right that we can do outside here? I think we'd just be a better place. And I like everything in my life always goes, I can relate back to wrestling.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I would definitely agree with you there, and I mean, unfortunately, I did have, I mean, to the T. Unfortunately, I wish that weren't the case for you or myself, but I had an alcoholic stepfather as well, and you're absolutely right when you say, wrestling was an escape, man. Wrestling and sports, essentially, for me, growing up, I had a lot of alone time. And I used to watch baseball. I used to watch baseball with my grandparents. I grew I so I'm in the Chicagoland area, but they live down towards the St. Louis area. So I grew up watching Cardinals baseball, and became so enthralled with that, along with wrestling, and watching Saturday morning superstars and all that good stuff. And you think about it, and uh, I'm thankful for wrestling for sure. And that's I totally agree with you on that, man. It's been a big part of my life for sure.
and I mean, I think it's kind of cool now that we have kids Sounds like your daughter's into wrestling. Mine likes to eat Roman Reigns with her dinosaurs. I'm all for it. That's cool.
Awesome.
But it's just something that it was passed down to me from my grandpa to my uncle to me. I still try to keep my uncle in the loop. He's a little bit more cynical now. I think he's been jaded over the years of what he remembers. Because he used to take me to the local high school gymnasium and we watched Hogan. He paid $3 for the ticket, and now we can't even go because I refuse to pay $90 for the cheap seats. I just refuse.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's another part that's soiled it. So you talk about wrestling, not even just wrestling, but sports in general. It's ridiculous that you can't take your kids to anything anymore without it costing an arm and a leg.
yeah, I think baseball still kind of gets it right
Mm,
in some areas. I
not
think,
up here. Let me tell you.
yeah,
But well, you know what? I take that back. So the Sox, yeah, nobody goes to those games, but the Sox, yeah, the Cubs, yeah, that's like a big
right,
outside bar. But
yeah. But like I know, like uh, the Packer game. I mean, if for a family to go, I mean, I just have a family of three. We never go, but it would be just to get in the door $600 for tickets.
yeah, yeah,
Like
The NFL's nuts. The
I
NFL and
don't,
the NBA is
yeah,
nuts too.
like I don't really care for the Packers that much to go and spend a car payment or a mortgage payment on a
Right,
cold ass afternoon around drunk ass people that don't even know what's going on. Like that, you
right.
know. So I mean, I'd rather go to an independent wrestling show and pay 20-30 bucks and be
Yep,
around drunk ass people that know what's going on. So
exactly. That's a great statement. That's a great analogy. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right there.
yeah, so wrestling is a funny freaking thing, isn't it?
It is.
It's
It
a
is.
it's a quote unquote, people say the word fake. It's not fake because Christ, I wouldn't want to do it.
That stuff kills me. It kills me because of this, right? So I just went to go see it too, right?
Mm,
So somebody come up to me, and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed it too." They'd be like me saying, "Oh yeah, it's fake, right?"
right.
I mean, come on, like it's entertainment. Look, and actually, what happens, and that's not to take anything away from movies because they have stunt people and all that, but you think about what happens in the ring in wrestling, that's more real than what happens in a movie because the way the moves, especially nowadays, uh, for the moves to be executed, those are real bumps. Those are real things that are happening. You get real bruises, you get real injuries from wrestling, and people don't understand that you can't just be some random person going out there and screwing around in a ring or you're going to hurt yourself bad.
Right. And I think when people use that word fake, it's kind of a kick to the nuts to a guy like Draws who was paralyzed in the ring,
Right.
or a guy like Owen who was doing a stunt and died in the ring.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yes, I mean, but how is it fake? He didn't fake his death.
It's not.
That irritates me.
Yeah,
It's
it's people that so me and you find joy in something and they want to sit there and suck the joy out of it. Again, it's the misery loves company concept.
right.
Uh, just like you got people on Twitter being a-holes, that's just because they're miserable. They're miserable pieces of crap that want to make you be miserable and feel like a piece of crap. So mute them and move on in real life and on Twitter.
That was very good advice, sir. Well, I know it's getting kind of late in the day. I think we
Yep,
touched on
we're
it.
almost the end of Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th, by the way.
Hmm,
I know this will probably
thanks.
air a long time, or not a long time, but sometime after. But had to
Yeah,
reference that.
I didn't even.
You a big horror films fan?
No,
No.
no. Uh, see, when I was a kid, that same person that I referenced before used to make us watch all that shit.
Yeah.
So I still have a fear of spiders
Oh,
and clowns.
got
uh,
you, got you.
I get it. It's not real. Like Here I go into the fake shit again. I think that as I've gotten older, I've gotten myself into the mode where like that shit ain't gonna scare me.
Right.
I think the last two things that really got me it was funny was like the Blair Witch Project. That's simply because after I went to that movie, I had to drive out to the middle of the country and work third shift on a farm by myself. So
Oh, wow.
like so
Wow. Yeah, I remember. I saw that in the theater too. Hey, it got me too, though, man.
it,
Because I was waiting for anything to happen, and yeah, that weird thing at the end, whatever.
right.
Spoiler alert, but
Uh,
yeah,
so
that's crazy. You had to go work. Wow.
yeah. So, that's why it kind of freaked me out. And then See No Evil with Kane. That really did some
Okay.
shit to me.
Really?
That did some shit to me mentally.
Yeah.
And my wife used to watch horror films when we first got together. We've been together 18 years, and we watched Jeepers Creepers, and
Oh,
she refuses to watch any horror movies after that. And in fact, almost filed for divorce because when we were in an argument for like a week, every time I saw her, I would just sing Jeepers Creepers. That almost cost
wow.
me my marriage, but well, you
Yeah,
live and you learn.
one of the scariest things I think I've ever seen Kane involved in was what was that? Was that Crown Jewel in WWE? That was pretty scary. Sorry,
Uh,
but sad but
is it
true.
is it like are we anti-human if we watch that shit in Saudi Arabia?
No, I mean, it's not. At the end of the day, look, I get it because of everything that happened, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's blood money pocketed by Vince McMahon. You could sit there and you can make the argument, maybe Vince McMahon, but we're watching a wrestling show, whether it's wherever it's airing from. That's not our decision to make. Um, Now I will say this: the show wasn't that good, but
None of them were.
so I mean, you got and unfortunately, you think of guys like the Undertaker and Goldberg, and unfortunately, there's a little bit of exploitation there because you're having these guys. I mean, that trip to just to get over there is no joke, and you're sitting there, and I mean, that Goldberg Undertaker match was scary, and not in a good way. Not in a dead man rises way. It was
He's
so
really
many
a dead man
spots,
way.
and you're right. And you can't sit there and blame Goldberg or Undertaker because they're sitting there, well past 50 years old, and they're doing all this travel, and you just can't reasonably expect a human being to be able to execute at that in those moments. So it's a shame.
Yeah. Speaking of Undertaker, did you watch this week SmackDown at
I
all?
did. I did.
So I kind of went on a rant on my show that I don't want to see him on my television anymore
Yeah.
because, like, honest to God, I don't know what the fuck he said in 10 minutes. Like, I really feel like you have to be high off some really good weed and some good LSD to figure out what the hell he was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the sad thing. Like, so that's Tuesday. So what? Monday, like 3 days prior, he was on College game day as American Badass.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I did not know. No, I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of American Badass Undertaker, but I would much rather see him then because I'm.
Yeah.
Want to know why? Because I'm almost 40 years old. I know he's not dead anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now when he debuted at Survivor Series and he came out, I clung to my uncle. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And like, what is that guy?
I'll tell
You
you
know,
what, the memory that sticks out for me was when Undertaker locked Ultimate Warrior in a casket on an episode of Superstars.
right?
And I mean, they had the sound effects and everything in as a kid. Of course, yeah, you ate that stuff up. Like, I was like, damn, I think Ultimate Warrior might be dead, like, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was only his career that he was killing. But, um, and that's bad to say because he's actually dead now, so I shouldn't
Right.
speak ill of the dead. But, some
That's
people
okay.
believe Yokozuna was agile even in his death.
Well, and
RJ. But yeah. So.
his his wife's over killing creative anyway, so whatever. His memory lives on.
Oh, geez. Yeah, how does that work? I can't get a job in creative, but Dana Warrior's doing it. And
Oh, okay, right.
God,
So I've been a wrestling fan for 30 plus years, and I can't get a job in creative because I don't have 13 different degrees that have nothing to do with writing wrestling storylines.
right.
It's the irritating thing because I was gonna apply, and then I was like, shit, I don't have $400,000 to go to college to get degrees that I'll never use. So, whatever.
This is true. This is very
Uh,
true.
well, anyway, you brought up memory of Taker and Warrior. That is the number one thing that we're missing in today's product is moments.
Yep.
I can name
Organic moments, not moments they're trying to sit there and fabricate, but organic moments. Yeah, I agree.
Right. And I'm not ashamed to tell this story. When Elizabeth threw off Sherry at I think what was that?
WrestleMania
7. And they hugged. That's the moment I knew what real love was.
Yeah.
And then I moved in with my grandparents and I saw what real love was. So, it's like, that's where I learned that shit. I still have I have a picture somewhere that Jake autographed for me with the snake biting Randy. I'll never forget that moment.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
or as young as I was, Andre ripping off Hogan's necklace.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong on this, but I think that main event was built in like 3 or 4 weeks of television, and
I think you're right.
It was one of the biggest main events in WrestleMania history because people gave a fuck. Exactly. I can't tell you what happened at Mania last year or on a random Raw last year because they didn't give me anything to stick in my memory.
Right. And there's this whole movement to kind of force things and say, oh, remember this, remember this whole cool moment or a moment, and it happened literally. It's the same Raw, the third hour, that they're saying it was a moment in the first hour.
Right.
And they repeat it so much, and it's like, what? It's not really a moment. It's something you guys are fabricating.
Right.
There's a couple of things that were kind of special. The Ronda Rousey stuff and all that. But even those, it's just like, because they're just, let the fans determine and let the product be organic, and the fans will let you know what they like. It's akin to throwing some stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right.
But let the fans enjoy the product, because wrestling has always been and should always be for the fans and about the fans, and that's what makes it unique.
Well, yeah, and we're the ones that are spending a stupid amount of money.
Agree.
Like stupid amounts of money on wrestling.
Yep.
Well, sir, I'll tell you what. I could talk to you till about 5 in the morning, but I'm sure you wouldn't like me at 5 in the morning. So, I definitely appreciate that we got this time together, and I feel like I have a new friend.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, man.
So, why don't you let everyone know where they can get a hold of you, and I guess we'll wrap this episode up.
Sure, yeah. So I'm on Twitter at Michael Berry Sr. Follow me. For the most part, I follow back. Trying to make it to $3,000. So if you don't mind spreading the word a little bit, that'd be nice. But at the end of the day, I'm looking to build these organic friendships, whether it be on Twitter or real life. And I'm a wrestling fan, just like a lot of people, and grew up loving the product. And right now we're doing RWH Podcast with Damian Purvis. That's at RWH Podcast on Twitter. Would love for you guys to give us an opportunity. Check out the show. Let us know what you think. And, that's where we kind of go back and look at, different runs throughout history. And it's been a blast. And, numbers are starting to go up. And, hoping that it's something that's sustainable and something I'll get to do for a little while here. But I definitely appreciate you having me on today, and, loving your show and love what you're doing. And I can appreciate, the organic wrestling fans that are out there. and you can tell the ones that care about the product, and it's good to be able to have nice civil conversations with other wrestling fans, as opposed to people just kind of crapping on you for what you like. So
I still kind of want to. I hope that someday I accidentally book somebody that I can just yell at. That'd be fun. Just to
like
straight up argue.
just straight up argument.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down to do that too. If you want to have me, I mean, we can sit here and I can get passionate about stuff. Trust me. But I'm never gonna sit there and say, oh, you
Right.
believe this, you're stupid. Like, don't call people stupid. Don't be stupid.
Yeah,
So that's
no. The show's called Convos with Pops, not Arguments with Pops. I can argue with myself. So once again, I want to thank everybody for listening, and I want a big thank you to the Golden Voice, Mr. Michael Berry Sr.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Was waiting for it the whole time. And I guess in signing off, as always, support your independent wrestling podcasts. Good night, everybody.
Good night.